puzzle it out. Today's topic: how do we protect free expression while preventing harm and intolerance?
And today, as you saw in the intro, we're going to be doing a puzzle while we try to figure out kind of how we stand or what maybe some positions are on today's topic, which is where do we draw the line between free speech and tolerance? That there's kind of, in a democracy, you can either have complete free speech without any restrictions at all. You can have some restrictions based on safety, which is kind of where the United States generally lands. Or you can have kind of more restrictive free speech laws like in some of the European countries where it's not just about necessarily inciting dangers, but perhaps protective measures to protect democracy itself. So with that in mind, kind of give you guys prompts. Where do you fall on that scale of what maybe is the right? Is America getting it right with kind of looking at just safety? Are we I mean, that's where the laws have said we're kind of moving in different directions, but.
We get to have a conversation, right, Ted?
Absolutely.
So I don't think I'm going to rush my answer, but maybe
Sure.
I want to flush out like what you set the table with.
Yeah.
Like I know in America, the way you described that, we have like the broad scope of what is allowed to be under free speech umbrella, and that I think the classic example comes from the you can't yell fire in a crowded room. Like that's just the general baseline of you can't put other people at risk. But then I think just to flush out your example of some European countries, I think like in Germany, because of their history with like Nazism, I think there's certain limitations about how people can reference that, or they can organize around such an idea. And I don't know. With that table being set, I guess. At the moment, classically I thought America was close to having it right, and maybe it's that classic thing where like we need to just make sure that you actually stand by the supposed rules that are already in place. But I could be convinced otherwise if anyone else wants to chit chat.
I mean, I'm just really thinking about Ted's question, did America get it right? Did it? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure that we got it right, but I also think of, what you referenced about Europe, and that makes me nervous. Any government telling me, here's a punitive action for what you said, but also, people say some terrifying things that directly cause harm. So I would love to turn it back to you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of the things that piqued my interest, actually, Chad, on that, your reference to like no yelling fire in a crowded theater. So that actually is language that was used by, somebody might be on mute. Jessi might be on mute there. That might actually be, that was actually a reference made by Justice Holmes in a case during World War I. His reasoning for their ruling was based on, was around the idea of like clear and present danger with speech, inciting a riot or causing an issue, but that the actual ruling that he made was on World War I protesters. And he used that fire example as creating, like, this is, a protester is creating a clear and present danger just like somebody yelling fire in a theater.
So it's one of these classic idioms that was actually utilized in the exact opposite way that people like to reference.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good.
yep.
Good.
So the
more you know.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting that when it comes to free speech, the laws that the rulings that we've had in the United States have typically landed on, you have the right to say what you want. You can lie. You can, mislead. Those are things that you're allowed to do as long as you aren't causing harm with that. And so then it gets to like, what is harmful speech?
For example,
right?
my brain went is like, how come politicians don't fall under some umbrella of what you just described? It feels like right now.
Sure.
Or maybe always, but yeah. All right, sorry, I distracted.
Well, that's the other part to it. Is like, it's the people who are in power that are usually enforcing the free speech rules rather than the people who are being oppressed or who are who are using their voices to speak dissent, right?
So should I circle the wagon? We have this whole time to decide on the final answer of the original question of where do we land on that spectrum, or do we have it right or wrong? Do we just keep circling towards that?
I think so.
All right. Well, I don't think the fact that that example was used in a way that was opposite of how I referenced it really changes the philosophical core of why people still reference it, even if it's wrong.
Sure, sure.
So I guess I think, yeah, and actually to your point, Jessi, like you said that you didn't like to hear that the European, you understand how scary that can be used as a political tool to just say that these types of people can't come together.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair enough. Like, yeah, yeah.
Well, and there's already, so many social consequences to, the words that we say, the language we use, and rightfully so. But like legal consequences, I don't know that I hope I get to the bottom of that by the end of this conversation.
I don't know if the aim is necessarily to have an answer,
no, we
but
need an objective answer. Nuance out the window.
we can solve it right here.
Yes.
I mean,
3 white people.
Oh, boy, I've been listening to a lot of Bo Burnham lately, so I better on that, on that note, like a couple times during this last rundown of like, where does this free speech fall? Of course, now it just looks so different through our modern social media as well.
Right.
It's like there's a lot of like now we have entire it seems like entire groups of people are there just to invent memes that are almost the most outrageous things just to incite people on purpose. And then there's a whole lot of people that don't even use social media to really speak up in any way. It's like interesting to watch how it all is so easily piecemealed into different visual ways you can look at it through such a black and white lens as like posting online.
Yeah.
Like everyone has that much more of a voice, but is everyone using it? And if they are, how are they choosing to use it?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it clickbait or rage bait? Like that's the thing that I just like.
Yeah.
What is that? How is that exercising? But it is.
Is when people are posting online and those algorithms are, feeding into that. I often feel when it comes to free speech on social media, it's the actual kind of actions of the platforms and the algorithms that are really to blame for the motivations behind some of the people who are creating rage bait are doing so because they're getting rewarded for that activity.
Yep.
So I think people have always kind of chased that moment of being able to get attention, and just the platforms are amplifying that in ways that are really unhealthy for viewers and for democracy. But I don't know if it's necessarily, for me, that speech is something that we can't really restrict without getting really dangerous.
Right.
And that's where current administration is and with Elon owning X and then clearly making everyone see his own tweets and shutting down people or banning people who tweet negative things about him is this is clearly an unhealthy use of this platform. But I wouldn't want to restrict
21st century version of buying
access.
a newspaper and just totally ruining what the editorial page is about, only it's the entire online forum. Jesus,
Yes.
just crazy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah.
Where you started on that though, the algorithm, that's the new age version of something that, it's been already in place for 10 plus years, this concept, but it's only something that everyone's gotten, I think, really used to being used and abused in the last 5 years, and the way that we're rewarding people just for engagement. Engagement is usually being born from anger or just people feeling anything and sharing it. That's where I feel like a second ago you almost conflated that immediately into just free speech as a whole, and it's God, we need to differentiate those as two different conversations, because the idea that these corporations are in this country they're people, but
Right.
should they really be? And therefore, should a person? I know, right?
Yeah.
They can't be put in jail, and should anyone be allowed to really abuse everyone else's mindset that easily? Or what does it mean to mandate it? That almost feels weird to mandate it, but.
And who's deciding, and who's the one that's, who's deciding? Who's the who?
Well, the default's just good old capitalism right now.
No, the government should, that's not the who.
No?
Not the
That's
who
not
that
who
I
should
like.
Yeah, it's interesting. If we're part of Free Speech Day. Obviously GRTV is a free speech organization. I think there's an interesting comparison people make of public access, like, oh, that's YouTube now, but I think there's, and I mean, they've made the argument in the pitch, but I'm just coming back to it because it really does spark for me. We really, this feels more like a public square where you can go to the park and say crazy things and people will walk by and maybe they'll yell at you or like, you know, but they can ignore you, they can move on. And that does feel like a type of free speech that we want, right? Where it's like, you can have those opposing views, you can have weird beliefs, but the amplification of that happens in social media where and the black box nature of it, right? We don't know what's actually being pushed and why is really scary.
I'm gonna rewind your analogy, like, you know, just 20 seconds ago about like the guy in the park yelling. Like, no, I'm gonna just tweak that slightly. Like, we're living through the new printing press moment. Like, when the printing press first came out, people didn't know they couldn't just believe every flyer handed them on the road. Like, there was this weird power. People had to get used to the idea, learn about respecting media literacy, respecting journalism, editorial boards, understanding what that really all meant. We're back to square one. Like, people are respecting anything that's posted from any source. And it's like, yeah, everyone needs to relearn what it means to actually respect where your content is coming from.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's at the core, it seems like.
I feel like every 20 years there's like a new wave of like how, like in schools, of like how to be media literate. Because I remember when I was in elementary school, learning how to like cite a source, and then middle school actually having to cite the source and find the most reputable for this specific event, right?
Yep.
And I was looking on the internet and in like printed media, and now
AI is just destroying that.
yeah.
As if our teachers are already yelling us about just using Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Now,
Wikipedia is so reputable comparatively.
Massively so.
Yeah. And I'm not on social media, and I still, yeah, but I don't know,
I jump back on it all the time, even though I called you smart for doing so. Some of my most thoughtful friends aren't. It's like I jump back on it because I recognize sometimes it's the only square I can go to make sure I'm at least reaching some more people than I would otherwise. So.
Right, but if more people engaged with public access spaces, if that became something that was part of the norm, or you know, back to part of the norm.
Or why can't the public access space? We just need to reinvent a better social media that is actually used in a safer way. And how do you actually grab most of the populace to jump on board is the hard part.
Right.
Like, how do we actually make that happen?
Or it's like that conundrum of third spaces and, you know, how do you make it more accessible? Everybody's lonely, but everybody's on the internet talking about their loneliness. And then yelling about something.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to the end, so I don't know if we've come up with a necessarily conclusion, but I think that it really is.
Did we even talk about it?
Yeah, I think that
everybody got a little.
I feel like this is a topic that we all need to really think about and consider in our day and age of what that free speech really means and how do we protect it in mindful and conscientious ways. And it is a really complicated issue. There's plenty of speech that does a lot of harm in our communities. But I think if we can be mindful, respectful, and really treat each other well with it, I think we can.
Respectful and thoughtfulness would go a long way.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
I don't think so.
And maybe you have an answer. I don't know.
I thought we might.